Welcome to TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najima Lima. But first are the headlines.
In the news today, Chagulanyi's lawyers have finally got some relief after serving the president-elect Yoweri Museveni with copies of the petition seeking to overturn his victory. LC3 and councillors' elections went on smoothly, however the voters' turn-up was low. In Somalia, government calls for emergency talks over election crisis. And in sports, CHAN 2021 title race enters semi-finals, hosts Cameroon take on champions Morocco. These and more stories in our bulletin.
And now the news in detail. Today, Ugandans have voted for LC3 chairmen, councillors and town council mayors. In some places over the country, the turn-up was too low compared to the previous elections. Let's have more.
In today's elections, the voters' turn-up was too low compared to the previous, especially the presidential elections. In Nansana, at Nansana Secondary School Playgrounds polling station, there were some irregularities where one person, whom his names were not given, is alleged of stealing 3 ballot booklets from the presiding officer. According to residents of this area, this caused chaos among the supervisors and the electoral officials, forcing police from Nansana headquarters to intervene and arrest the captive.
Nadduka nabo naye ne bamusuuzaako kamu. So tetutegedde side kyentuufu ebubbye naye nga kibaddemu nti chairman wa DP vice chairman w'ekitundu kino abadde mu kkobaana eryo era atwaliddwa ku poliisi.
Although the scandal took some hours, putting elections on standstill, both parties agreed and the elections went on. In other polling stations, apart from the low turn-up of voters, the voting process moved on smoothly without any scandal.
Then tugenda nga twepika mpola tutuukira ka presidential ne MP obuli abo abantu bali badde bavangayo nnyo ne balonda.
Wakiso district is taken up by the opposition support, especially the National Unity Platform. In the previous elections, NUP party won almost all the seats, including MPs. However, it's not yet confirmed whether the voters will vote the same.
Moving on, lawyers representing the first run-up in the recently concluded presidential elections, Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, have finally got some relief after serving the president-elect Yoweri Kaguta Museveni with copies of the petition seeking to overturn his victory. The lawyers, led by Anthony Wameli and Tuliamusima Geoffrey, today served Museveni through one of his lawyers, Esau Isingoma, at Supreme Court in Kororo. Let's have more.
The service was witnessed by the Supreme Court Registrar Harriet Sally and the NRM Secretary General Justin Kasule Lumumba, who had accompanied Isingoma. Before the service, the parties first appeared before the registrar, and it is where Museveni's lawyer Isingoma tendered a letter showing that Museveni had instructed them to receive the petition on his behalf. But Wameli said he had not been given a copy of the instructions and that they wanted to be courteous and serve them through their addresses.
I don't expect service, and according to the information I have, he has instructed them to receive service. We are confident. Evidence was glaring, but now we have brought it before the court, and we also believe that the case the justice it deserves.
However, Chagulanyi's lawyers later served Museveni's lawyer and the NRM Secretary General, Justin Kasule Lumumba, who had waited for them close to an hour before they could arrive at court. The registrar has also informed the parties that she will be giving them dates for when to conduct the pre-hearing by next week, once all parties have put in their responses. The service arises from the Monday petition filed against Museveni, the National Resistance Movement candidate, Electoral Commission and the Attorney General seeking to overturn Museveni's victory. Museveni won the January 14th presidential elections with 58.38% of the votes casted, whereas Chagulanyi, the National Unity Platform candidate, obtained 35% of the votes. This is according to the results released by the Electoral Commission chairperson, Justice Simon Byabakama. But following this, Chagulanyi petitioned the Supreme Court, listing 26 grounds for which Museveni's victory should be overturned.
Okay. We want to receive service on his behalf. And yesterday, we notified this on the report in our letter, Secretary General of the Party.
Council?
Well, we are glad that our search has come for them to serve on one of the law firms that is listed.
Okay.
But we will take it that since we are before you, they have instructions to receive service, and we are glad to do that.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the letter, Council?
Your Honor, we have, but after we receive service, we shall put in our address.
Okay.
Our answer within 3 days. So by then, we shall also actually.
From the
court and so on.
He argued that the entire electoral process was sham, having marred by a number of irregularities such as non-compliance with electoral laws, bribery, intimidation, favoritism during campaigns, arrests, failure by the government to make amendments to the laws that would result into free and fair elections. The musician turned politician also argued that there was involvement of the army that reportedly caused violence and hence loss of lives among others. As such, Chagulanyi asked court to order for a fresh election and issue a permanent order restraining security from ever involving themselves in future polls. Speaking to us after effecting service, Chagulanyi's lawyer Wameli said that finally they have gotten some relief after tracing Museveni in Kampala City since yesterday and they failed. The NRM Secretary General Justin Kasule Lumumba says that everything was done in the law and called upon their supporters anytime they are approached to give evidence in court to respond positively. The panel to hear this petition is yet to be constituted by the Chief Justice Alphonse Owinyi Dolo before a hearing date can be given.
Moving on still, the Sexual Reproductive Health and Rights Alliance has organized a pre-youth visual conference to train health workers to help youths live a better life. Dr. Dina Nachiganda, Assistant Commissioner for Adolescents and School Health at the Ministry of Health, says many youths shy away on private issues. Therefore, they want youths to know more about their HIV status and sexual reproductive health. Our reporter has more on this story.
Agenda really speaks to having all these services being programmed to run together to ensure that if someone is seeking for sexual reproductive health services, they can also have services given for their HIV ailments, but also have their sexual gender-based requirements addressed. And we also are speaking to having this integration in regards to starting at the higher levels of policy, guidelines, but also at the level of the health facilities and the communities where we find all these sectors of the people. So this is what this event is, and today it's mainly focused on young people, and young people means 10 to 24 years. Of course, these are all different segments. There is 10 to 14, which is the very young adolescents, but then there is the 15 to 19, which is the average adolescent, and the older adolescents. So this pre-event really focuses this age bracket because we know that their needs are kind of different from the needs of the older population. So
let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News. The right to know. In our business news today, Uganda's coffee exports grew by 962 bags in 2020, a 20% increase from 2019. The increase is the highest since 1991, according to Uganda Coffee Development Authority, the country's agency mandated to control and market the crop. Let's have more.
Figures released by the UCDA show that exports for the calendar year January 2020 to December 2020 amounted to 5,492,525 60 kilo bags. Uganda earned $515.94 million from the exports. In 2019, the East African country shipped 4,519,563 bags, fetching $436.54 million. This represents a 22% and 18% increase in quality and value, respectively. In December alone, coffee exported amounted to 422,922 60 kilo bags, worth $37.78 million. The improved performance was attributed to an increase in production driven by newly planted coffee trees in favorable weather. Uganda's coffee is mostly sold in raw form. The country produces both Robusta and Arabica coffee. Most of the crop is grown by smallholder farmers in the central, eastern, and western regions of the country. On export destinations, Italy maintained its top spot among countries with a high affinity for Ugandan coffee, followed by Germany, Sudan, Belgium, and India. African countries that consume Uganda's coffee, the most are Sudan, Morocco, Kenya, Algeria, Egypt, South Africa, and South Sudan. Europe is the main destination for Uganda's coffee with a 63% import share.
Still in business, traders in Abuja are left angry and disappointed after a court order that ordered the closure of a popular market and two major malls for not complying with COVID-19 safety protocols. Let's have more on this story.
Wuse Market, UTC Trading Mall, and Marge Plaza was shut down by the Federal Capital Territory COVID-19 enforcement team. Traders with sad faces lined the front entrances of the Wuse Market and the UTC Market area in 10, Gachi, Abuja on Tuesday following that closure. Both markets were locked Tuesday afternoon, heavily guarded by a contingent of police officers, soldiers, civil defense, and other members of the Joint Task Force. The Federal Capital Territory Administration said the markets will be shut down for 3 days for failing to comply with COVID-19 protocols, thereby violating the COVID-19 Health Protection Regulations 2021 recently approved by President Muhammadu Buhari. Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, has recorded over 134,000 COVID cases, including 1,613 deaths.
In our health news today, Tanzania's health ministry says it has no plans in place to accept COVID-19 vaccines just days after the president of the country of 60 million people expressed doubt about the vaccines without offering evidence. Let's have more on this story.
The Health Minister Dorothy Gwajima told a press conference in the capital, Dodoma, on Monday that the minister has no plans to receive vaccines for COVID-19. Any vaccines must receive ministry approval. It has not clear when any vaccines might arrive, though Tanzania is eligible. The COVAX global effort aimed at delivering doses to low and middle income countries. The health minister insisted Tanzania is safe during a presentation in which she and others didn't wear face masks. She encouraged the public to improve hygiene practices, including the use of sanitizers, but also steam inhalation. This has been dismissed by health experts elsewhere as a way to kill coronavirus. Chief Government Chemist Fidelis Mafumiko also suggested the use of herbal medicine to cure COVID-19 without offering evidence. Tanzania's government has been widely criticized for its approach to the pandemic. It has not updated its numbers of coronavirus infections, 509 since April. The World Health Organization's Africa chief last week urged Tanzania to share its data on infections, while the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention director said that if they do not fight this as a collective on the continent, they will be doomed. President John Magufuli, who has long asserted that government has eliminated COVID-19 in Tanzania, last week asserted that vaccines for it are inappropriate even as fast significant vaccine deliveries begin to arrive on the African continent. Authorities in Tanzania, from the Catholic Church to government institutions, are pushing back and telling the public and employees that COVID-19 exists in the country and precautions must be taken. While it's difficult to gauge the level of virus infections in Tanzania, this week leading opposition party ACT Wazalendo announced that party leader Saif Sharif Hamad, vice president of the semi-autonomous island region of Zanzibar, was being treated for COVID-19. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in its latest travel warning on Tanzania, says the country's level of COVID-19 is very high. It gave no details but urged against all travel to the East African nation.
Now, international news today, Mogadishu has convened an urgent 3-day meeting with federal state leaders in a bid to break an election deadlock and avoid a constitutional crisis. Our reporter has more.
Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi summoned the federal state leaders for talks concerning presidential mandate, commonly known as Farmajo, a mandate which expires on February 8th. Somali's president is elected by country's lawmakers, but Somali has failed to hold the necessary ballot to choose new lawmakers so new president can be elected. The meeting, dubbed Samareb Conference, has been supported by the UN in Somalia and urged those attending to come to an agreement on how the elections should be proceeded. Somalia has been marked by over 2 decades of warfare and political instability following the removal of President Siad Barre in a 1991 coup. The central government controls only a part of Somali territory and relies on the African Union Peacekeeping Force, AMISOM, to confront a violent insurgency for the militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab and the less potent Islamic State.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back.
Africa is the origin of humanity.
1776 in Germany, European leading scientists sat together. At the time they knew that humanity started in Africa at the foothills of the mountains of the moon.
Africa is the origin of high technical civilization.
We are not both Europeans. We cannot colonize Africa, which created a civilization like that of ancient Egypt or ancient Ethiopia. No! So what do we need to do? We need to demonize the African to say that he has no soul and he actually never created a civilization, but we have a problem.
Because of white domination, everything has been changed, leading to black inferiority and self-hate. To reclaim what was ours and get back on top, join Dr. Chiurankuba in the restoration series Wahene Mesu, showing on TV Africa Channel 45 every day at 9 p.m.
Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our sports news today, it's a showdown on Wednesday between Cameroon and Morocco for the African Nations Championship semi-finals. Let's have more.
The hosts managed to forge ahead in their path in the Chan Cup despite a disappointing game in the group stage. Cameroon only just snatched victory in the quarterfinals with a 2-1 win over the DRC. But the indomitable Lions take on title holders Morocco, who are big favorites to the Limbe pitch. Morocco has had an almost flawless run during the group stage before overtaking Zambia 3-1 last Sunday in the quarterfinals. Just before the match at 5 p.m, another semi-final plays out in Douala between Mali and Guinea. Mali has been the conqueror on penalties from Congo, while Guinea took the lead over Rwanda in a 1-0 victory. The winners of those semi-finals will face off on Sunday in Yaoundé, where the winner of the 2021 Chan Cup will be decided.
Still in sports, Pitso Mosmane's El Haili SC trained on Tuesday in preparation for their FIFA Club World Cup tie against El Juhail. The African champions are making their 6th appearance in the competition and prepared to better their results of 2006, where they finished in the 3rd place. Let's have more.
Nicknamed Club of the Century as they have won a record 9 African Champions League, Al Ahly will play Qatar side Al Duhail on Thursday. Their South African iconic coach Pitso Mosmane can rely on his new player, Moroccan international Badru Banoun, semi-finalist of the African Champions League last autumn. The club lost some key players such as captain Ahmed Fadi of Pyramids FC and Senegalese Ali Badji of Ankara Gucci in Turkey. As reigning Qatar Stars League QSL champions, Al Duhail SC will be flying the flag of the host nation at this year's FIFA Club World Cup. The Red Knights will also be making their debut in the competition after edging Al Rayyan to last season's league title by a single point. They face Al Ahly on Thursday night. Founded in 2009 as Lekwia SC, the club rebranded under the name Al Duhail when it merged with Al Jaish SC in 2017. Since coming into existence, Al Duhail's impact on Qatar club football has been impressive, as last season's league triumph was their 7th QSL title. The club's honor roll also includes 3 Amil Cup titles, 3 Qatar Cup crowns and 2 Sheikh Jassim Cup successes. Al Duhail's domestic success over the past decade has also earned the club 9 consecutive appearances in the AFC Champions League since 2012, with the Doha outfit set to take part again in 2021. They are led by head coach Sabri Lamochi, who is a familiar face to followers of the QSL. The eyes of the football world will be fixated on Qatar for the first major tournament of the year. The FIFA Club World Cup Qatar 2020 will be held from February 14th to 11th after the annual competition was delayed by 2 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The tournament will also showcase 2 FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 stadiums. The tournament will also showcase 2 FIFA World Cup Qatar 2020 stadiums.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories.
In the news today, Chagulanyi's lawyers have finally got some relief after serving the president-elect Yoweri Museveni with copies of the petition seeking to overturn his victory. LC3 and councillors' elections went on smoothly, however the voters' turn-up was low. In Somalia, government calls for emergency talks over election crisis. And in sports, CHAN 2021 title race enters semi-finals, hosts Cameroon take on champions Morocco.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please stay tuned. More programming coming your way.
This is Africa, and that was the news.